A flood threat is setting up across the southeast, and it is going to be such a messy start to the week, and it could even include some severe storms. Jordan.
Yep,
and temperatures will help with all that snow, and by the end of the week, the bitter cold creeps right back down into the south, where you'll be waking up in the 20s and 30s. But look at the northern tier, teens, single digits, and even below zero, Molly.
That cold air, it is making a comeback, and this is America's Morning Headquarters. I'm meteorologist Molly McCollum alongside meteorologists Kelly Cass and Jordan Steele. Jordan, let's start with you. We've got the rain in the south this morning. Everyone's going to need the umbrellas. You've got the windshield wipers. Hopefully you've been changing those out regularly because you really will need them this week.
Yeah, I haven't done that.
Potential for flash flooding. That's going to be due to several days of rain, so you want to keep the umbrella really close by. Don't take it all the way in the house like I do, and then you forget to put it back in the car, and then the next place you get out, you're like, oh man, I don't have my umbrella. It's going to be a soggy start to the week, so you'll start to see the puddles on the ground, out on the roadways. The silver lining here is the temperatures are warming up, so at least it's not going to be a really cold rain. And Atlanta, by the way, is running about 12 inches above average for rain for the entire year. I know it was a really dry fall. A lot of that rain fell in the earlier part of the year. And now we're seeing more rain. Most of it so far this morning has been just north of this city, but now we're seeing our next wave of rain. It's light, but it's still moving through the perimeter, the 285 corridor, all of the major interstates where a lot of people are trying to get their work week started, and it's going to be slowing a lot of you down. By the time we get to this evening, we still have the rain. It's going to be on and off as we go throughout the day, so you might be able to find a dry window where you can take the dog out really quick. You can go for a walk really quick before the rain starts to move back in. More rain is anticipated on Tuesday, and some of the heaviest rain will be moving through on Tuesday afternoon into the evening hours. We could see some delays at the Atlanta airport. I know that's not what anybody wants to hear, because even if you're not flying to Atlanta, if it's not your final destination, if your flight is originating from there, or maybe you have a connecting flight, it might slow you down. Keep that in mind this week. As we get to Birmingham, we've had rain this morning. Most of it will stay just south of Birmingham and I-20 as we go throughout today, but tomorrow we see more moisture start to move in. We're starting off with some rain. I wouldn't be surprised if we have some rumbles of thunder too. Then we get to Wednesday morning. This is kind of our last push of moisture before we start to see our cold front slide through and the drier and colder air takes over. Now, Louisiana, especially southern Louisiana, is one of those spots that has been very wet lately. So much so that we've practically erased our drought in southern Louisiana. So any additional rain on top of this is going to cause flash flooding very easily in a spot that already floods very easily, like New Orleans. Now, southern Mississippi, we could use some of the rain. You still have some drought. You're still in drought categories in southern Mississippi, but Louisiana, southern Louisiana, this is going to flood really quickly, especially with days upon days of rain. The deeper that we get into the week, the more likely we are to see flash flooding. So here's our first flood watch. It includes southern Mississippi and New Orleans and areas in southern Louisiana, Kelly, where it could become a problem as the days go on.
Yeah, and of course we've got the snow melt and the heavy rain that's moving across the Ohio Valley and eventually moving into the northeast, although some of you still have some wintry precip ahead later on tonight. You can see all that moisture on our water vapor imagery. Area of low pressure moving its way across the Ohio Valley. So we're basically talking about heavy rain, thunderstorms to the south, but raindrops as far north as Buffalo this morning. It's on its way. Erie, you've got the rain already. Cleveland, Ashtabula, Mentor, Ohio, seeing some rain. And I want to point out where you have some of those areas that are still cold right near the surface. There is a little bit of freezing rain being detected on our radar, so definitely watch out for that. Cold air can be very stubborn to scour out. So we're going to watch that leading edge of rain move down the New York State Thruway. It's reaching into Syracuse by 2 o'clock this afternoon. Utica all the way to Scotia there and Schenectady. Snow, though, across the Adirondacks and some of those higher elevations where the air is just cold enough that we still have more snow on the way for later on tonight and through tomorrow. But even here, we're going to start to see that cold air being eroded away, and then we'll eventually go over to rain. But before that happens, you've got winter weather advisories for this. Possibly anywhere from 3 to 5 inches in portions of Maine, New Hampshire, where you see the pockets of purple. We're talking as much as 5 to 8 inches, and some of you saw a few inches of snow just this past weekend. So this is a look at the winter weather advisories for tonight into tomorrow morning, and then of course we'll go over to rain and wait for the next batch of cold air to change us back over to snow. So there's that pink showing that possibility of a glaze out there for tomorrow night. We do have that next shot of cold air already on the horizon moving in, and that's going to change that wind direction, and we will get into that colder air and even lake effect snow on the backside of that low pressure. So here's a look at Tuesday night. There's that pink, that awful pink, Pepto-Bismol pink. That is your freezing rain, icing over some of the bridges and elevated roadways. That basically turns over to rain, but then look what happens. Wednesday is a magical day as those winds shift in direction. Rain changes back over to snow by Wednesday night into Thursday, and there's your lake effect snow, Tug Hill Plateau, western New York. Hey, how about Erie? Jordan, who wants more snow in Erie? We've already had a record-breaking season, and we've got more coming our way.
Kelly, you brought up
It's still warm. We're getting this cold air that keeps diving down from Canada, moving across that warm lake water, and it's allowing snow to pile up pretty quickly. This is the snow cover that we have right now. This is just evidence of some of these very prolific lake effect events that we've already had, especially in the Tug Hill Plateau. You can see the Lake Erie snow belt there, and in the UP of Michigan, we have seen quite a bit of snow as well. Now, we start off this week not with lake effect snow, but with some warmer air and rain. This is very similar to what Jordan was just talking about, but in some of the lake effect areas, all the snow that's on the ground, it's going to start to get eaten away a little bit by the warmer temperatures and the rain in combination. So those big piles of snow that you have that you can see out your window, they're going to start to shrink just a little bit. And then we're going to bring in the cold air. You can already see evidence of that in Wisconsin, UP of Michigan. This is by Wednesday morning. That cold air starts to spill in. Lake effect going on in Traverse City, Grand Rapids. Then we see the cold air spill over Lake Erie. Now Erie is picking up some snow as well as some of the Buffalo South towns now in the Tug Hill Plateau. And it's very obvious where that lake effect snow is going to linger at least through the first half of Thursday, but it's very likely that we see this linger at least until Friday morning with some of that cold air still moving over that warm lake water. 8 to 12 inches of snow in the Tug Hill Plateau, nothing that we can't handle, just adding to those really impressive amounts that we've already seen. And this is what we were talking about with Erie, Pennsylvania. This is just a really fun stat this morning because last year a lot of people were very disappointed by this season. Only about 25 inches of snow. But Kelly, you're talking about a place where their average snowfall is about 104 inches of snow. So last year, not a great season last year. No. We are off to a good start this season.
We sure are. All right, Molly, thank you. Time now for your Monday morning frontline. Christmas just a couple of weeks away. Well, if you're doing any shopping or maybe some traveling, we do have some issues on the map. You see the rain moving through the upper Ohio Valley. Yes, rain as far north as Cleveland, all the way down through the southeast. We've got the possibility of some rumbles of thunder, but there's also some wintry precipitation across portions of New York for later on today and tonight. For the New York airports, including New Jersey here in Newark, there could be some delays starting after 1 o'clock this afternoon, be it a ground stop or a delay program with the rain coming in. Atlanta really later this afternoon, we could see some problems at the busiest airport. And with the thunderstorms down toward the Gulf Coast, we could see a ground stop or a delay for New Orleans. That fog may get you. We need Rudolph out there. We have some pretty thick fog. It's as thick as eggnog in some areas across portions of Missouri, Kansas, all the way down into Oklahoma, and yes, down toward the suburbs north of Dallas. So be careful. Visibility not so great in some of these areas this morning. Then you've got the rain. So those windshield wipers going a little fast at times to keep up with it, especially down toward the Gulf Coast where you have that better chance for thunderstorms, even a flood watch in effect for some of you. And that rain will continue to be with us for the Atlanta area, Birmingham, moving on up towards Greenville and Charlotte as we head toward the evening rush. It's mild, Jordan, but we do have the rain to contend with, which can always mess up our traffic.
That's right. Careful out there on the roads.
Now it's clouds, it's rain, warmer temperatures, especially compared to what we were just going through last week with the freezing mark all the way down into central Florida. Now it's the opposite. We've got the milder temperatures, thunderstorms in action across south central Louisiana right now where the dew points are high down toward the Gulf Coast. So we have just enough instability in the atmosphere and of course enough moisture with those dew points in the 60s that we're getting those thunderstorms now breaking out across the south central part of the state. Not quite into New Orleans yet. We see some heavier downpours over southern Mississippi, moving into southwestern Alabama. Some of that just heavy rain with no lightning at all. But we could see too much rain. You know, we've had a lot of rain lately in portions of Louisiana, and New Orleans always prone to flooding. So a flood watch here, southern Mississippi over towards Gulfport, that I-10 corridor, where we could see some very heavy rainfall rates, especially when we get in on that convective activity and thunderstorms, which, by the way, could turn severe tomorrow. Here's a look at that heavy rain pushing through Alabama as we head towards 4 o'clock this afternoon. Ground stop delay program could be put into effect for Atlanta, the busiest airport. So we'll have to keep an eye on those flights. Showers, thunderstorms possible down toward the Gulf Coast, especially the I-10 corridor. And this is also where we have the greater possibility of some flash flooding. Here's the setup for tomorrow. Again, more instability, more energy to ride into these storms. So we could see those winds exceeding 60 miles an hour. So severe weather cannot be ruled out for portions of Georgia, southern Alabama, and even a section of the Florida Panhandle. So definitely have a way to get those warnings and be very careful traveling.